Supernatural Season 9, Episode 8, titled Rock in a Hard Place. This episode, it's the last one before the mid-season finale, which of course I didn't know until I watched the preview. But it was a good, it was another one-shot episode. I think, they've been doing that this season to really get back to the roots, not just through the episodes, but through the frequency of, these sort of one-shots where they go back and forth. And, every one-shot that they've done has been really good this season, and I've really loved them. If you some other reviews, you know that, but all those other ones have been really great because they've always done something really interesting. Either it was really really funny, or with last week's episode, it added new depth to the characters, or it introduced new characters that may or may not come back into the show. But this one, it was one of the really funny episodes. It had an older character, at Sheriff Mills. She's come back. It had a new goddess because they've had gods in the show before, and it was cool to have that revealed towards the end. And I like how they kind of played around with the fact that it was actually the woman who led the people into being virgins or born again virgins. But it was a really good episode. And the first half, of course, was just hilarious with Dean, and I knew it would be funny because it's Dean dealing with the virgin stuff, and so I knew it would be something funny. And I love when they're sort of in the circle and he's talking, and it's like, yeah, and we touch and this and that, and the women are getting like aroused and stuff. And it was a funny scene. And of course he ends up with the counselor because he finds out that she's in the porns that he watches, which he's been watching throughout like the entire series. And it was just really funny, and he ends up with her. But it was a really good episode. Like the first half, like I said, was really funny, and I loved how funny it was. It was just hilarious to me. And then the second half was just a really good story, trying to figure out what exactly is it, because they made it seem as though it was dragons, because that's what it was. And then I thought maybe it's a dragon who kind of went against the normal rules or whatever, because that happens. They have demons or specific things that do crazy things, or they're in weird areas, or like I said, they do different stuff. So it was interesting to figure out what exactly it was that was really going on, and why these people were being kept alive and stuff like that. But it was really cool. And Sheriff Mills comes in, and she helps, well, she pretty much helps Sam because Dean gets captured. But she comes in, and something they don't talk about it after it happens, but something they mentioned before they kill the goddess is that it can only be killed with like a staff that's doused in a virgin's blood. And she killed it, so it made me think maybe she is a virgin, because they had like the tiniest little drop of blood on there from the one woman when Sheriff Mills just punched her right in the face, which is really funny. But she, like, it stabbed her in the arm, and at first I was like, I thought like, holy crap, she's gonna die in this episode. But it was one of those things where it was used as a device to kind of show that she was a virgin, but they don't talk about it. So I feel like either they just do that and it'll that was pretty much it, or it's going to be brought up in a future episode, because for some reason it'll be relevant that she's a virgin, because who knows what else sort of crazy demon will come out. But I think that's kind of why they did it that way and didn't actually talk about it after the fact, because especially since they do talk about it when Sam asks, if she was, a born again virgin. So maybe she didn't have to be a born again virgin because, she's a virgin. But, I don't know. But I feel like that was something they either, like, I doubt they just left it out, unless it was for some reason a deleted scene. They just couldn't get it in there. But I feel like they did that, and it'll have to come back in some way. It seems insignificant now, but somehow it'll just be really important in the future. But it was a great episode. And also I love the scene when she's leaving, and I'm sure everyone heard it, but it might not have been just clear to hear because she was off screen and it was like in the background. And when she's walking and she opens the door, she's like, "Oh, thanks, don't get the door or anything." I thought that was really funny because she stabbed in the arm and she's in a sling, and they're just standing like, "All right, see you later." But I thought that was really funny too. But it was a great episode. I can't wait for next week. Mid-season finale, which I didn't expect. I'm never thinking that it's the mid-season finale for all the shows and stuff, but it is. And next week seems like it's gonna be really crazy. They had Cass in the suit and stuff. like covered in blood in one scene. He's caught by someone else who's most likely an angel, and in this episode they had Dean was about to basically spill his guts to Sam and say, hey, you're possessed by an angel, and that's why the goddess basically said what she said, even though of course he didn't know. That's why Sam was talking about it. But Ezekiel, he basically comes out and he stops him, and Dean, he's like, all right, if you really think it's that bad, then I kind of have to trust you because you know you're the one inside his body who literally knows whether or not he's like bursting at the seams type of stuff. So he held it back, but I think it's really gonna come out in next week's episode because of the preview where Ezekiel, they're in the bunker and Dean's running to Sam and he thinks it's still Sam and Ezekiel pushes him against the wall. Who knows what the heck that is? It could have something to do with a good guy. It could have something to do with a bad guy. Most likely it would be Crowley if it's a bad guy. But who knows? And I'm just excited for that. And actually, speaking of Crowley, something they did in this episode that kind of disappointed me was in the preview where they recap certain episodes where it's like this will be important because it relates to this episode, like which was years after this one. They show where they talk about Crowley and stuff and the blood. It made me think that he was going to be in this episode and they were going to give us some information about him, and that's all I was so excited for that because the last scene we've had with Crowley was when he was injecting the blood in himself, and then they have this flashback like whenever Crowley gets human blood in him, he changes like this and that. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be a great episode because they're gonna give us the information for Crowley, and they don't. Like he's not in the episode. They aren't in the bunker. It's nothing. He's not in it except for that preview, and it just seemed weird that they would even bother showing that information because they could have easily just shown him with Sheriff Mills in that scene and when she's spitting out the blood and stuff and then just cut it there. But they specifically go into talking about showing the recap where Sam's like, whenever like I saw what happened when you had human blood and stuff like that, and then he's not in the episode, and it just really misled me. And it could have just been me, but you guys can let me know if that happened to you too. But I was really looking forward to that, and it wasn't in this episode, and I feel like it won't be in the next one either because of all the craziness going on. But at the same time, with Ezekiel coming out and actually pushing Dean against the wall, who knows? Who's to say what really did or did not happen? It could just be a typical preview thing where they show this scene and make it seem incredible, and then it's really not even a special scene. It could just be a funny moment, really. But no matter what, I'm excited for next week. Excited to see what exactly happens because there was a lot of angel souls flying through the air, and it looked like they were going in a volcano, but it wasn't a volcano. It was something. It might have been a mountain. I'm not sure, but excited for next week for sure. But for this episode, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. I was glad to see Sheriff Mills come back. I always kind of forget about her as one of the side characters, I guess, because whenever she's in it, it's fairly simple. It's her kind of just doing the human thing, being a cop. And in this one, she was actually more in the hunter realm than normal, so that was kind of cool. But what are you guys excited for next week if you saw the preview? And if you didn't, definitely find a way to watch the preview. But for this episode, did you guys enjoy it? Did you think it was a good one-off? Were you hoping for were you misled by the opening? I think that I'll use that as my question. Were you guys misled by the opening like I was? Like, did you think Crowley was gonna come in and we would get at least a hint of information out of that, or no? But either way, comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.